Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. Happy Sunday. Yesterday was the Lantern Festival in China, which is the 15th New Year's Day, 15th day of the New Year. And it's the traditional Lantern Festival, and also officially marks the end of the lunar New Year celebration. So I hope you've all had an auspicious start of the Year of the Dragon. Uh, Many people in China didn't, because since the beginning of the year, there have been quite a number of large scale disasters, like from mass murders to explosions and now to fires. Um, I remember one of the feng shui masters predicted at the end of last year that the year of the dragon would be inundated with fires. And surely enough, we've seen that breaking out throughout China now. In the past couple of days, we saw fire in Nanjing, Jiangsu province, and also in Heilongjiang, in the Jiamusi city. But the biggest fire broke out in Guizhou, which is one of the poorest provinces in China. So today we'll talk about why China's poorest province is suffering from fire, and why China's poor economy and the government's indebtedness are causing these major disasters. And I'll back up my claim with financial data. So fire broke out in the province during the Lunar New Year. And let me play you a video. I'll play that. So this is in Nanjing, Nanjing City, and then so you'll see images. Chris helped me compile these videos. um, and the one in Guizhou started on February the 18th. Yeah, this one is Heilongjiang. By the way, this fire in Heilongjiang looks quite, how to say, deadly, but the government claimed no casualty. And here are the visuals from Guizhou. So it broke out on the 18th. And videos uploaded by local people show continuous mountain fires at night and flames surging onto highways and into neighborhood. And people say half of the province is on fire, and the size of the affected area is reportedly equivalent to two Taiwans, or the size of two Taiwans. Um, yeah, if you look at, and it broke out in rural Guizhou, like in the mountainous areas, and they're not in major urban areas, but they're all in the rural areas. We've seen farmers, crying for losing their farm animals. Like there's a farm, a pig farm that's burned out, and so it's pretty dramatic. So I'll show you this picture. Yeah, here are more visuals. So this is a highway. I think someone is driving, and then the fire ahead. Okay. All right. So here are some of the cities. Someone did this image, identifying the city or the area where there was a fire in Guizhou, and then they showed the picture and then the name of the location. And then there's a map captured by satellite. And this map was released by Provincial Ecological and Agricultural Bureau of the province, and it shows the places where the fires were happening. And it says that during the Lunar New Year period, which is only about 10 days, a total of 148 fires have occurred in the province, triple the number compared to the same period last year. And in some reports, and that number was released on I think the 19th of February, and in the past couple of days, the number has increased to 220. So a total number of 220 fires have broken out. So everyone is talking about the cause of fire, right? So what has caused it? Well, in Guizhou, people say that there's a local custom that begins on the eve of the Lunar New Year, where people go to pay respect to deceased relatives by lighting incense and candles. Some people blame these activities as the cause of the fire. However, other reports suggest that disgruntled people deliberately set fire. So, for example, a villager from Zhongying village in Zhijing County set fire to the mountains out of resentment, and the police has detained scores of individuals who were suspected of arsons. And most of these people did that out of their anger or frustration. So, judging from the authorities' attempt to cover up the fire, I think the New Year ritual of burning incense may be a minor cause, and arson may be the real reason. Official media was trying to cover up information about the fire, and it's censored on social media. So after it has broken out, people were not aware. And the entire Chinese society was obsessed with a 24-year-old woman, a married high school teacher, who was exposed by her husband for having an affair with her 16-year-old student. And the woman even became a star for defending herself on social media for her right and accusing her husband for violating her privacy. So this story became the talk of the nation while the fire was blazing through the mountains in Guizhou. So it wasn't until the 21st that the Chinese state media began reporting on it. And then Chinese netizens quickly discovered that the teacher-student affair was to cover up the fire in Guizhou. So every time China has a major disaster, there's certainly a sensational story involving a celebrity and or sex. So in response, netizens criticized the authorities for their neglect of fires, of natural disaster, or I shouldn't say natural, of disasters. And they say, Chinese media always relentlessly report on foreign disasters while turning a blind eye to the domestic ones. They say communist countries' propaganda only report fires and wildfires occurred in foreign countries, but are indifferent to Chinese ones. That is certainly the case. When there were fires in Australia and also in Hawaii, remember, last year, the Chinese media were all over it. But in this case, they were quiet. So as the Chinese people started to turn their attention to the fires in Guizhou and trying to find out the real causes, the propaganda machine started to circulate conspiracy theories. And there were three predominant ones. So I'm going to tell you the three conspiracy theories that are circulating in Chinese social media. Now, don't laugh. Hold your laugh until the very end. So conspiracy theory number one. Okay, so it says Guizhou is a major repository of traditional Chinese medicinal herbs, with over 90% of medicinal materials coming from the province. Now, Japan imports 80% of its Chinese medicinal materials from China. However, at the end of last year, China's Ministry of Commerce prohibited the export of Chinese herbs to Japan. In response, they say Japan resorted to arson as a means of retaliation against China. So in short, the Chinese are saying that the Japanese are retaliating with the mentality that if you won't sell herbs to me, then you won't be able to use it yourself. That's conspiracy theory number one. Number two, it's also related. It also involves Japan. It says Japan also heavily relies on Chinese herbs. Japan relies on Chinese medicinal materials. It imports these materials, these herbs from China, and then process them and sold finished medicines or traditional Chinese medicines to the Chinese market. Due to Japan's immoral discharge of nuclear wastewater, China has banned the import of Chinese medicines produced in Japan. Now, unable to sell their medicines, the Japanese resorted to malicious tactics by setting fire to China's repository of traditional Chinese herb resources, forcing China to seek imports from them, from Japan. Okay, that's conspiracy theory number 2. Number 3, it has to do with the United States. It says the United States attempted to eliminate the Chinese people by releasing the COVID virus, but they didn't anticipate the protective power of traditional Chinese medicine. Instead, it backfired, resulting in the most death and suffering in the United States. However, the Americans' hostile intentions persist, and they are planning another virus attack. This time, they started by burning our herbal medicine bases first, before the attack, and this shows the malicious intent. Now, don't laugh. These conspiracy theories sound totally ridiculous, but sadly, they are effective on many Chinese. Don't be surprised by the number of Chinese who actually believe them. One of my family members in China recently expressed his hatred towards the Americans for trying to screw up their good life in China. And we were very shocked. So those of us living in the US were very shocked because we were very close. And he's a very good person. So we were very shocked to find out that how much hatred he has towards the American government. And one of us even got into an argument with him. But my point is, it just shows you how pervasive and sophisticated the CCP's brainwashing apparatus is. I mean, we don't see it as sophisticated, but in China it is, because they know how to work on the mainland Chinese. But it just shows how pervasive the brainwashing apparatus is in China. But okay, regardless of how ridiculous they are, the conspiracy theories confirmed one thing for us. That is, the fire in Guizhou is unlikely related to natural causes like wildfire on mountains that just started on their own, or it's caused by these New Year rituals. Because, I mean, if it's New Year rituals, it should be consistent year over year, right? I mean, it has been. Why is it like all of a sudden like 3-4 times worse than the previous years? So the conspiracy theories all said that it's arsons. So it confirmed one thing for us, that is the fire in Guizhou is more than likely arsons and not natural wildfire. Mr. Zhao Lanjian, the Chinese journalist known for his investigative work on the mother of 8, the chained woman, remember, whose story, was caught the nation during the Lunar New Year period 2 years ago. Mr. Zhao has since fled China. He said on X that after watching and studying the fires for days, he concluded that the fires were an organized effort by disgruntled citizens because they broke out simultaneously. And he believed that it's impossible to have hundreds of fires broke out simultaneously. And so this is what he posted on social media, on Twitter. He said, China has seen the largest organized protests in its history, with simultaneous fires set in the forests of Guangxi, Guizhou, Yunnan, as a means of venting pent-up anger. The areas affected by the fires are in a state of extreme chaos, with inadequate rescue facilities or rescue facilities or infrastructure, and ineffective management systems, leading to perverse behaviors. So the government, instead of extinguishing the fires, their efforts are on silencing the public voices. So police, for example, the police from Machang Station, here's a notice, a screenshot of the notice, openly threaten and intimidate local residents. They prohibit people from filming and disseminating videos of the fires. They threaten people if they talk about it. And they said, don't ask and don't tell. And if you cause bad publicity, you'll be held responsible legally. Now, people who are familiar with the Guizhou government offered unique perspective on the unprecedented and prolonged fires. And they say the root cause of the fire lies in the extremely incompetent local government in Guizhou. Basically, at the grassroots level, not at the provincial level or the municipal level, but at the grassroots level in rural Guizhou, like the village, villages or the township. They say that the government has lost its basic functions to serve the people. And they have also become the biggest burden for local people. And this has caused tremendous resentment. Now, I cannot verify that because I'm not in Guizhou, and I can call up people in Guizhou to confirm this. But we can sort of confirm that by looking at Guizhou's financial data. I think it's very revealing. So let me show you some of Guizhou's financial reports. So this is the government, the provincial government's financial data. So the province is known for not being able to balance its budget for years. Government spending is almost 3 times its revenue. So here's 2023 financial result based on this chart. I just took the numbers and came up with it. You can see that expenses were 3 times the revenue. So the way this province survives is relying on central government's transfer payment or transfer payments from other wealthy regions, and also it has relied on debt because Guizhou is one of the most indebted provinces in China. Its official balance of debt is 1.5 trillion. As I circled in the official government release in the screenshot in the top, I circled it. It's 1.5 trillion. And that's the explicit debt. Now, it also has implicit debt, right? What we know as LGFVs, the local government financing vehicles. And this is a secret. So nobody knows officially how much it is. But according to a professor from Tongji University, I think his name is Zhong Ninghua. And he teaches at the Tongji University's business school. His team did an estimate, and based on the screenshot, it's 1.79 trillion. So Guizhou has another 1.79 trillion LGFVs. So if you and the way he did it is he went through all the banking records, all the transactions in the banks that he could gather. He also interviewed many people in the SOEs, in the government. So this is the number he came up with. But I think this number is understated. I clearly, because when I read his report, I feel like he has to be positive. All of his narratives in his research paper were so positive about LGFVs because he lives in China. He has to be consistent with the government's official narratives. So I think this number has been beautified or adjusted So the real number could be worse than that. But anyways, let's use his number. So total debt in Guizhou is what, 3.3 trillion? And there are 38 million people in Guizhou. So that means the per capita debt, and this is per capita government debt, not private, not enterprise debt or not individual household debt, but the per capita government debt is 87,000 renminbi, or about $11,000 per person. So given the dire financial situation, I think the Guizhou government has completely lost their ability to do anything. And they are dysfunctional. And this trend has been ongoing for the past years. And the situation only has worsened. So if you look at the government budget for the past 10 years, the government deficit has grown from 217 billion in 2014 to 412 billion, right? As expenses kept going up. And this trend will worsen in 2024. So now, oh, by the way, even though the province is very poor, the government has been aggressive in building infrastructure projects, and spending has kept growing. So this is the situation that the government is in now. Let's take a look at the type of revenue. If you look at the makeup of their revenue, 41% is non-tax revenue, right? Non-tax revenue is 41%. Now, what's non-tax revenue? It's all sorts of government fees. So for individuals, you pay a fee to government when you apply for a birth certificate, a marriage license, or try to get a divorce paper, right? Vehicle registrations. I mean, you pay the government a fee every time you have these business that involves a government agency. So that's what the fee is. Now, for companies, they are charged with all sorts of fees for like permits, licenses, inspections. So individuals and companies have been paying a lot of fees, and not only fees, also fines, government fines, like traffic fines, corporate fines. Restaurants can be fined for selling dishes that are not on the menu. And grocers can be fined for selling produce at a price outside government's designated price ranges. So there are all sorts of fines designed to collect money from the people. And the total make up 41% of Guizhou government's revenue. So in other words, the citizens of Guizhou have been covering 41% of government spending, in addition to paying taxes. Let me show you this chart. This chart, the two yellow highlighted columns highlights the total non-government revenue. What do I say? Non-tax revenue. Right? And then the total revenue. So I calculated the percentage of non-tax revenue in the green column, and I compare that to the national average. So take a look. And it's striking because Guizhou has two problems. First problem is, compare with other regions in China, Guizhou highly depends on these government fees and fines as a major source of revenue, right? The national average is in the teens. It's no more than 19%. But Guizhou's is what, 41%. If you look at 2022, it's almost 46%. So it's so much higher than national average. So this province mostly just rely on people, its citizens. The government has relied on its people to run its government. And not only that, but also the growth. The national average didn't grow as much over the past 10 years. I mean, it fluctuates between 14% and 18%. So it stayed in the teens. However, Guizhou's percentage increased from what, 25% in 2014 to 41% now. So not only it relies on the people more, but it has grown so much over the years. And this is precisely the problem in Guizhou. Um, Now, Guizhou has some of the most beautiful sceneries and landscape in China. I mean, some of the scenes are breathtaking, like this one and this one. But it's also the poorest province. I mean, I found these pictures from mainland China. Uh, I mean, this mother is cooking rice, and a few years ago, a college student whose name is Wu Yanhua, she lived on a daily allowance of 2 yuan. 2 yuan is what? Not even 50 cents. It's like for 40 cents. Yeah, it's like she lived on a budget of 40 cents a day. And she was eating rice only because she cannot afford anything. And she ate rice for 5 years. Now she was an orphan and had a monthly allowance of 300 yuan from her uncle. And she tried to save some money for her brother who had mental illness. She made it to college academically, so she's smart. But due to the lack of food for a long time, the 24-year-old was only 4'5", which is about 1.35 meters, and weighed only 50 pounds. And so she became sick and was hospitalized. And she's from Guizhou. So in such a distorted society, yeah, this is all. So what I want to say is, in such a distorted society, many people have become hopeless. They may resort to violence to get their voice heard. And this is the root cause of the frequent occurrences of various violence and bloody incidents in mainland China recently, from mass murders, explosions, to now fires. And I think this is the reason why the regime is doing what it can to cover up. I said I hope everyone had an auspicious start of the new year, but I really don't get that feeling from people living in China. I myself had a tough start of the year of the dragon because I lost a dear friend in China to possibly COVID and also lung cancer. He's young, only in his early 50s, and he was the most positive person that I've ever met, the most positive Chinese person I've met, and he just suddenly died. So yeah, so when you talk about these tragedies and death, that happened to other people, it's one matter, but when it actually happened to you, it's another. So I really hope this year, stays, uh, how to say, uneventful for all of us, because it just really didn't have a good start. All right, that's all I want to say. Okay, let's see if people have any questions for me. Let me first go through the super chats. David Lopan. David, it's good to have you back, and thank you so much. Thank you, Lei, for the Sunday shows. It's pretty much my only day off when I'm in training. You're the best, and I'll miss you when I deploy. God bless. Oh, thank you, and be safe, and God bless. All right. Fly. How do I pronounce your name? Flygera? I'm having a hard time pronouncing that. So, but thank you for the donation. Okay, that seems to be all. I'm sorry. I have to end it here because I mentioned the loss of my friend. It's a little emotional on me because it's the Lunar New Year and I lost a dear friend. So I'll end it here. Okay, bye bye.